Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 6, Philosophy of Social Science. And our topic is Science, Modernity and Sociology. It would not be wrong to say that the modern social sciences emerged out of this epistemological optimism. It was therefore not surprising that right from its inception, modern sociology, to take a specific example, was guided by these two philosophic foundations: objective or universal science and progressive and historically inevitable modernity. Sociology saw itself as a science, a scientific study of society, as an objective, value neutral and empirical science. It differentiated itself from religion, metaphysics and common sense. As we have been learning about positivism and even classical sociology and the way both grew in the late 19th and early 20th century, we would discover the immense impact of the Enlightenment philosophers on sociology and its methodology. Likewise, sociology emerged in order to make sense of the new age. Sociology, it is often said, was a product of Enlightenment modernity. Not solely that. The leading sociologists of the late 19th and the early 20th century, from Auguste Comte to Karl Marx, were the children of modernity in their own specific ways. They celebrated the new age and wrote substantially about it. We will take some examples to make this point clear. It is not our contention to argue that these thinkers were blind champions of modernity. They were great scholars and immensely sensitive. They could see the pathologies of modernity. We already know that Durkheim was concerned about anomalies, the growing normlessness in modern societies. We also know that Marx was a great humanist who critiqued the fragmented character of capitalism and its alienation. And we are also aware that Max Weber, yet another great sociologist of the classical era, spoke of the pathos of disenchantment inherent in the modern age. But we need to appreciate the essential points. Even when they saw problems with modernity, they did not want to regress to a non-modern age. Instead, they retained their faith in the foundations of the modernity and science and sought to accomplish the agenda of modernity by making it more humane and egalitarian. As we can see, science with its central principles of objectivity, universalization and casual explanation did have a tremendous impact on the formation of modern social science. This, however, does not mean that there was absolute agreement on the unity of method. True positivism, a dominant mode of sociological inquiry in the 19th and the early 20th century, did not see much qualitative difference in the study of nature and socio-cultural domain. But then, There were many other differed who pleaded for a separate mode of inquiry in social and cultural sciences. Its root could be seen in the Immanuel Kant, one of the leading Enlightenment philosophers. While meditating on nature, he spoke of the two distinct principles, the physical component being enslaved by the senses, and the moral component that strives for truth, justice, and beauty. No wonder one aspect of the Enlightenment social theory that spoke of human beings conditioning gave birth to material or structural analysis, and the other mode of inquiry that spoke of human beings freedom gave importance to voluntarism, human agency, creativity, and reflexivity. Herein lies the point of departure. There are social scientists who would argue that unlike an object in the physiochemical or biological world, the human being is a creative or reflexive creature, and human society is therefore a domain of meanings, not just an external things constraining us. In other words, the human society, it is argued, has to be seen as a product of creative accomplishment on the part of the social actors. The task of social science is to understand and interpret these meanings. Max Weber, as we learn, emerged out of this philosophic tradition. For Weber, sociology is an interpretative study of the subjective meaning complex of the social actions. He regarded it as Verstehen, a method of understanding the conscious or subjective meanings social actors attach to the world. It was in this sense that the Weber saw beyond economism and interpreted early capitalism as a domain of meanings that the proponents of Protestantism or Calvinism attached to the world. Well, Weber did speak of the human agency, but this does not mean that his sociology was subjective in nature. Instead, he sought to unite the interpretative study of subjective meanings with an objective causal analysis. He was not against the basic tenets of science, objectivity, value neutrality, and causal explanation. What he was objecting to was the positivist urge to equate society with nature and undermine the domain of meanings. He was therefore talking about ideal types, which were more like models rather than abject scientific laws. In the 20th century, the tradition of the interpretative sociology was further developed through phenomenological and ethno-methodological traditions. The central thrust of these traditions is that the world is largely a world experienced by the human beings, and the task of the social science is to describe, understand, and make sense of this world, how people themselves define and construct it. Alfred Scrooge, a major proponent of the phenomenological tradition, spoke of the intersubjective world in which people interact, communicate, and understand one another through the process of typification, a process that enables people to fix and define one another and have a shared role expectations. It is through this process of typification that a meaningful and stable social order is possible. For Hughes, the everyday world in which people interact is a paramount reality. It is taken for granted, and that makes society possible. But then there are other realms, like the realm of dreams or the realms of scientific theorizing, in which people experience the world. All these finite provinces of meaning have their own notions of time and space, and shifts from one realm to the other involve shock. But then skews the paramount reality is most important, and all of us have to come back to it and experience the world as direct or real actors. Sociology for Skews must describe the understand how people experience the world. This means that sociology must take people's descriptions and definitions seriously. It is in this sense that sociological constructions are second-order construct. Likewise, Harold Garfunkel spoke of ethno-methodology or people's methodology. The task is to describe how people themselves define their world, not to explain it in terms of some context-free, abstract, universal generalization. In other words, in these traditions, we are witnessing a shift from abstract explanation to meaningful understanding, from universality to specificity, from theory to description, from structural causes to people's lived experiences. But then, as you would learn, these very foundations are in a crisis, since all these modern principles, scientific objectivity, historical progress, coherent or rational self, and the agency or freedom of the actor are doubted, particularly with the advent of post-modernity, and it has caused a severe philosophical crisis, and sociology had to cope up with it. In the next session, we will take the topic Rethinking Science. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning.